Thank you, Ryan, to coming to my Business Breakthrough podcast. I have managed to look at you, and I've seen that not only you have done some amazing things, building companies, 750 million valuation, exited, speaking all over thousands of presentations. But when I was watching your show reel, I've seen a common friend, Larry Lang Jr. He introduced you some of the stages, yes, and he's coming in here to Scotland in June. We'll be doing something together. So it's so nice to see how the world is small, that, through those connections, you can meet some interesting people. So thank you very much for coming, your precious time from your day and coming to this podcast. Would you mind sharing us a little bit about what is it you do right now? Because I know you are a futurist, you are thinking ahead and helping companies as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself so we can really get to know you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Vincent. And it is a small world. Larry's a good friend. Lives right down the road from me here. But my background, like you said, it's been entrepreneurial. Spent a lot of time in the venture-backed startup world and grew and scaled companies of all sizes. Some pretty big, some insignificant, and some didn't make it. That's just part of the nature of the business. But in 2021, I left that world from an operational standpoint and being in the day-to-day, either the president or CEO of these companies, and really started looking forward to what it was that I wanted to do with the next chapter in my life. And as I reflected on almost 20 years in the venture-backed space, I really realized there was an opportunity to help business leaders and entrepreneurs look forward into the future. And that's what I devoted a lot of my time and research and writing and speaking to, is saying, hey, I've had a lot of great experiences, happy to share those, but history repeats itself. There's nothing new under the sun. And at some point, as we watch, there's kind of a pendulum swing that goes back and forth. And how can we as business leaders, entrepreneurs, investors, take that information and be more successful into the future?
Yeah, it's nicely said. I love it. I was on an event. It was actually with Tony Robbins. It was his business mastery, and they were nicely actually sharing the cycles which you are going through. There were the smaller cycles, but then there were the big cycles, and it's by studying the history, what everything happened in the past, so how it's repeating in the future and how it's going to go. And it's very good to know these things, because when I didn't know, for example, I felt stressed sometimes in my business, like, this is happening. But then when I knew, I'm like, actually, it's normal. My business is that size. It's normal. I'm missing a cash flow. It's normal in here. I'm in that phase. So you are basically helping those companies to navigate through that. So tell me, like, some of the things where you see where is the future coming. As obviously the AI is a big topic. So obviously I can see that you speak on that as well. So can you tell me maybe a little bit about that and how the future looks like from your point of view?
Absolutely. One of the biggest questions I get, whether it's from meeting planners or even teams I work with, is the AI question. And I think there's a lot of people out there that proclaim to be an expert. And I am very bold in saying I am not an expert. I was writing algorithms on paper and whiteboards back in 2009 through 2019. So I have a little bit of experience, but nowhere close to an expert. And I think really what I try to help people understand when we look at AI is moving faster. It has wider reach than some other innovations, but we look at any innovation in all of modern history and we see the same acceleration pattern. So you see the automobile. The automobile broke us out of neighborhoods and made communities and cities, and then we could travel. You look at the assembly line, even that built the automobile, and some of the implications there. It put people out of jobs, but now people had to build conveyor belts and figure out systems and processes. You look at computer and internet. So you keep going. And I think one of the most profound questions, and it was years ago, that Jeff Bezos is sitting on a stage at one of his conferences for AWS, which is basically the server farm that runs half the internet. He's sitting there, like, I'm tired of people asking me what's the future look like. He instead says, we have to ask what's not going to change. And I think that's what's really important for us as
Yeah.
business leaders. There's all sorts of new innovations that are always going to disrupt. And AI, granted, has touched more areas and has accelerated faster and been adapted more quickly than anything in the past. So that is worth noting. But at the same time, yes, it's going to displace jobs. It will. There's no argument there. But it's also going to create whole new economies that we don't even know and can't fathom yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I actually seen that interview with just Bezos, like, was not going to change, and then just like looking at those things, because this is where I think a lot of businesses, I have businesses as well, to focus on, because these are the predictable things which we know they're gonna be there and they're not gonna change. So what would you suggest, if let's say there are some business owners, and obviously we are helping businesses and any scale, so like what will be some of the things which you think like not gonna change from your point of view, what people maybe can look at and focus on? Because for example, I had a holiday-led business, and it's nothing to do with AI, but because of new licensing in Scotland, that disappeared, and I had to close it all. And then after 5 years of building the company, making good money, from day to day, I had to close because of the new licensing. And then 5 years ago, I didn't know that something like that can happen. But I think if someone like you, who's actually looking into the future, so then you could maybe predict that, because you might knew actually in New York we can do Airbnb, or we cannot do it in here, and that's going to come into the bigger cities as well. But I never looked into things like that. So because you are expert in those areas, so what people think like would be like a safe for them to do if they are running their business and they're like, yeah, it's a good place to be, or maybe change it?
Yeah, I think the first thing, forget industries for just a minute and let's talk about a business. Regardless of the business, you've got to focus on your leadership skills and how you lead your team well and how you serve your client well, because businesses can't exist without that. Businesses can't exist without customers or clients. And most businesses, not all, can't exist without team members. And so I think those are the two things that you need to focus on above all before you start figuring out, how do I use AI? Where is AI going to interrupt? It's can I make sure that my company is future proof because we serve the people well? Once you do that, they'll adjust to the changes that come. So I think that's step one. Step two is, okay, let's look at the economies of efficiency that we can implement into our business today. And there's quite a few of those. So AI can take out a lot of menial repetitive tasks. There's a lot of money being invested right now at certain levels of an organization that will get replaced. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. The question is, if you replace that task, do you have to replace that person, or can that person now manage AI tasks and they actually accelerate their capacity 10 times or 20 times or 30 times? So I think that's something that's important. And I think it's forcing human creativity. We've already seen mass layoffs in the development space, mass layoffs in the design space, and video editing is right on the tail here. There's some new cloud co-work skills that have come out that integrate with Adobe Premiere and Final Cut Pro that edit multicam footage better than most humans, and in fraction of the time. So video editing is also next on the chopping block. If you look at the creative services, and those are some of the most expensive things: development, design, and video. And if you're cutting those, that's going to allow cash in your business to invest in other areas. And I think you really need to figure out, okay, if we can repurpose these roles, where can we invest that cash into the future? Because the customers are going to expect more. The customers want that real experience. We saw an interesting trend in the United States here. Gen Z is actually returning to malls, in shopping malls. They're returning to department stores. Barnes and Noble, a popular bookstore, is opening 60 new locations, increasing their footprint significantly because people want that in-person experience. Starbucks internationally has shut down a bunch of locations, but is focused on their larger locations and is putting in comfortable seating and making it feel more like a living room. And they're investing a tremendous amount of money in that. So people still want to interact with human beings, and I think that desire is actually increasing more now. And so as you save money here, in certain repetitive tasks or creative services or many places that we're going to be able to save money, the question is, how can you invest in the people experience? Because the people that focus on that first, the businesses that focus on that first, will ultimately win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, thank you for sharing. For example, one of the things I'm not big of fan of, like webinars or virtual things. I know you can reach a lot of people, but like from what you mentioned about people returning to malls and doing things like that, one of the things which I do is like a masterminds or in-person events. And I really see that, people are really hungry for it. Like they want to come, like when they experience it, they like see that it's much better than just being on a virtual event. And I barely enter any. I still need to do some webinars, or like we do it there like that because you are in the USA, I'm here. It's a little bit different, but I think people will be more and more hungry for that in-person experience. And because we are obviously creatures, we are social creatures. We want to speak with people. We want to be surrounded, and all this technology is kind of dividing. So we need to come together. And I think businesses usually focus on those experiences in person and more of that. So they will definitely have some kind of advantage. And where do you see yourself going with, basically, if I read it right on your website, so like you've done over 1,000 presentations Obviously, you speak all over. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, how much more you want to accomplish? Because you seems like you have done a lot. Also, I have a note. If it's correct, your newborn daughter, she will be 2, right? Adesia?
Ellen, yeah, should be 1. Yep, 1.
She's 1 and she'll be 2 in no, she'll be 1. Yeah, she'll be 1. But what I made the note, why I seen it, because she was born on 17th of July, right? Yeah, as my daughter.
Oh, no way.
I have 3 daughters, and my eldest is 17th of July, but she's 2018, so she'll be 10. I've just seen it on your Instagram. I'm like, 17th of July. I need to mention.
Hey, that's great. Yep. It's a good birthday. Good birthday. You were asking what do I want to do next? And I feel like I've been super blessed and fortunate to have done quite a bit, and I'm still learning every day. I think I'm learning more now, the hard lessons, than I was in the grind. But I think there's kind of 3 phases of life, and they're cyclical. Everything's cyclical. But the first one is you're grinding, and that's where most of us start. We're just working so hard to get our break to hit that next level, and we're just nose to the grindstone, grinding, grinding, grinding. That's phase 1. I think phase 2 for many is growing, and not everyone gets there. But at some point, you get out of the grind and you kind of have that growth where you're soaring a little bit. You're not working, but it's just smoother. You've kind of hit those smooth waters. And then the final phase, once you've graduated, would be giving. And I feel like that's the opportunity that I have to be in right now. I love sharing the lessons that I've learned. And often when I share what I've learned, I reflect and I learn more about what I did right and usually more what I did wrong on the journey. And so that's really where I'm at. I plan to continue down this line of giving and writing. I write every week in my newsletter, and that's amassed quite a big following. It's grown over 20 times in the past 9 months, so it's growing real fast thanks to conversations like this and being on stages. And I just absolutely love the opportunity to be around and help people think about the future in a helpful way that's not scary necessarily, but also make them aware because there are some things that we do need to be cautious of.
Perfect. Can you tell me about some, for example, also some, let's call it a negative or bad situation which happened with your business, maybe this business, maybe in the past? Very often we speak about the good stuff on the podcast or with people. And then sometimes people who are watching or listening, they're like, yeah, everything is good, but it's not good for me. I'm going through this. So if you went through any difficult situation, you don't need to share what was it if you don't want to, but how did you overcome it? Like, what was there something like, if you had one like that, which I think you had, because if not, I will be like.
Plenty. I think there's just, I don't even know where to start. There are so many. And I would say for every one success you see, there's probably 10 or 20 failures behind that. Really tangible example, and then I'll get into some concrete things that I've had to walk through. But for every speaking gig I get, I reach out to about 100 people to get 3 speaking gigs. So that means 97 failures or rejections. But I would say with the business world, it's true too. I mean, we've walked through everything from employee embezzlement to lawsuits for things that we didn't even do wrong. One lawsuit, the other company violated their contract, so they sued us. And they lost it in court and they sued us again. So, there's just all of these things throughout. And I think the biggest mistakes that I look back, like none of those things were fun. Mass layoffs because you're running out of cash, or you run out of cash and you can't deliver, or because those are real stages that happen in businesses. People don't talk about that. They talk about when they make, the 9-figure businesses, but no, there's times when you're not sure you're going to make payroll and you're begging people to pull forward invoices and doing some really risky things. And so I think, slow and steady wins the race for a long time in the venture capital world, and still to this day. And one of the reasons why I stepped out of it slightly is it's all about how much money can we put in so you can go spend all that money to hopefully grow. And sometimes you lose it all, sometimes you win it all. But I think the businesses that I see and the business owners I love working with right now the most are the ones who are really disciplined. They're like, okay, I'll use easy numbers, but I made $100 this month. And my payroll is $25. That means I have $75 left over. I'm going to save half of that and then invest the next half. And then the next month they make like $1, but they still have payroll at 25. Well, it doesn't matter. They saved. And the ones that are so disciplined, those are the ones that I'm actually seeing create generational wealth that lasts forever and ever and ever. And you don't have to have this big 9-figure, $750 million company or even $10 million company. You can have a $3 million company that would allow you to retire at, after doing it for 10 or 15 years, but you do it for a long time because you enjoy it and it's not stressful. And so I think anyone that pursues money as their main measure of success ultimately fails. Not that money is bad, not that you can't pursue certain goals. You should have goals. But I think when money becomes the main thing, almost every time I see those businesses get in the stickiest situations.
Yeah. It needs to be about more than money. It needs to be a contribution, like you said, giving away, and then that ultimately can grow. Because, I mean, I don't know, like, without money just sitting on the account doing nothing, like, we want to enjoy it, we want to do something. It's just a tool, right? So, yeah. So, absolutely, yeah, it's really good. So, yeah, it's being, like you said, like being steady and slowly grow. And I think I have to admit that was one of my mistakes when I started, not that old, but like 14 years ago. And then I used to have a food truck business and things like that. And then they would call me and was like, this is a good opportunity, come over here. And then I'm like, yeah, it's a massive opportunity. I can make over the weekend £10,000 with my food truck. This is how they kind of sold it to me, that that's going to happen. And then I didn't have the money to enter. So I had to borrow the money, go there, and stuff, which I never had. And then, of course, it went to shit and it didn't work out and I lost money. And if I was just thinking like that, slow and steady, then I would never sign up. I was like, no, maybe next year I need to build to that. But this is sometimes the problem of also the social media. Everything it needs to be quick. It needs to be tomorrow. And that's then we make some bad decisions. But I have learned, I was sharing actually on the podcast earlier, on the different one, that, we overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 10. And I'm really now, when I'm older, I'm like, yeah, I need to go. I have time. I don't need to rush. It's important things to, I have a family to take care, but I don't need to be a millionaire tomorrow. It's time for that. There's no rush to anything.
Yeah, I think you're completely correct. And I think, I had a goal at what age I would have $1 million. I achieved that goal. And then a year after I lost it because I kept pushing for the dollar. And money comes and money goes, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. It's when you take sight off of why it is what you're doing what you're doing. I think failure is lurking around the corner, and the majority of businesses fail. We're talking about 9 out of 10 worldwide. That's a significant number, and a lot of times it's running out of cash or getting burned out. But if you start a purpose driven business and you say, hey, whether it's the food truck and I want to make the best hamburger, or I want to have the best customer service or the fastest turnaround, whatever your purpose is in that food truck, do it and do it well and make that what you obsess over. And when you obsess over that one thing, you'll excel. But it's easy to get distracted. And I think social media does throw you off. You see these people that are flying on the jets or, these lavish 5-star vacations and fancy resorts and butlers and all of that at a mansion in the Caribbean or somewhere. And you think that you can do that. And yeah, you probably can, but you don't know how long it took them to get there. And most of the people that post that I found can't actually afford it.
Yeah.
I have a membership-based business, and it's amazing the credit cards that bounce on their dues to be part of that membership-based business, and they're the ones who are flying first class and all of that. I'm like, but you can't even pay your couple $100s a month membership fee. So it's not always what it looks like.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I don't know. I'm part of the JT Fox community and being coached by him, and then he always says, like, I don't know the numbers exactly, but he's like, on Instagram there is like 200,000 billionaires, but in the real world there's only like 3,000 of them. But on Instagram there's so many.
Right.
So it's and especially now with AI, you can people can fake anything. It's like so difficult to now believe what is true, what is not. So that's why it's, I think, very important to meet people in person and build those strong relationships, because you cannot fake that, because you can feel it from the people where they are on what level. When you speak to them, you know it, because if they show something online and then you speak to them and they act differently, you can smell smell it.
You can. Absolutely.
And have you spoken to majority of the countries, or do you focus on USA, or have you spoken in Europe, Australia? Where everywhere do you go with your message?
Yeah, I've spoken in person physically on 4 different continents, and then virtually, still 4 continents actually, but more countries virtually. But I think the
Yes.
majority of my research is primarily in focuses on UK and Western Europe. Majority of my research comes from the United States, Canada, and then Australia and New Zealand. But when you look at my generational research, that's really where the body of work lies, and it's applicable across the globe. But you have to pick one data set, otherwise, your books and essays would be so long that no one would read them to peel through all the data that I look at.
Hmm. Okay, so it's actually a lot of Europe. Then you mentioned UK and
Western Europe,
Europe.
yep. Yep, yep,
Ah, okay.
yep.
So
Because
do you come here because you live in New York or
I live in North Carolina.
North Carolina? Ah, okay.
Yep,
So like Larry, you said he's
yep.
actually close by. So yeah. Ah, okay. Yeah, because I'm planning to because he's coming in here to do some things, and then I'm planning to take some of my clients to come to your North Carolina region for speakers and do some speaking there. So it'll
Well,
be
come
good
on.
if never been to North
Yeah.
Carolina. I've been only once in USA last year actually. But I've been pretty much in a hotel only, so I need to see something.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's the bad part about speaking. Everyone's like, "Oh, you go to all these cool cities." I say, "I see the airport, I see the inside of a cab, I see the inside of my hotel room, I see an audience, and I leave." So
Yes, yeah. It's not that simple. Yeah, especially like how do you balance if you travel a lot? That's actually a good question because I have a three daughters. I think if I've seen on the photos, you have three kids as well, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So how do you kind of balance that when you go somewhere for a longer period of time, or like then just like that is away, like your wife and everything. Do you sometimes travel together? How does it work? Because I think a lot of speakers kind of have that kind of a thing.
Great question, and one of my favorite questions to answer. When I was in the VC world too, I was traveling a lot. So the travel is not new for my family, but one of the things that's really important is I'm always home on Sundays. I will not take anything that requires me to travel on a Sunday. My family knows that no matter what, I'm going to be there, and if not, they're with me. That's kind of the rule. So there is one guaranteed day a week that we are always together. We are always doing stuff together, and usually it's more than one. But that's kind of rule number one: is there are no Sundays where I'm not with the family. Period. Full stop. Um, and then the other thing is I will. I have done more and more local speaking in local by United States. I don't actually do much in North Carolina, ironically, but um, uh, so I will do a lot of day trips. So I'll fly to New York for the day, or I'll fly to Orlando for the day, or Atlanta, or Chicago. LA, you can't really do it in a day, but I'll fly there and then red eye home. So, because I'm speaking for an hour or 2 hours, and so most of these cities I can get to speak and fly back. And that way I'm missing maybe one bedtime, and sometimes I'm not even missing bedtime. So that's really important. So even though I speak quite a bit, some of those are at the same conference too. So for example, I had a conference that wanted me to speak 3 separate times on 3 separate days, 3 different talks. I said, since they're each an hour, I can speak 3 times in one day. I'll be in and out, and that's it. And I also, different than some speakers, I charge per day, and that's very intentional. I could charge per session, but I know how much my day's worth. First of all, but second, if they want me for a second day, they have to pay the second day, whether I'm speaking or not, and that
Mhm.
will help the meeting to narrow down how long I'm there. And there's disadvantages to that. Professionally, it definitely stunts some of my ability to network or spend more time with the meeting planners or meet other people there. But at the same time, the most important thing is not business. It's family and the relationships that you have, because that's something that you can't buy.
Yes, yes. It's actually very interesting when you mention about charging per day. I've never heard anybody say that they charge per day because obviously I'm a member of the PSA in here in UK, but for 3.5 years I go to a lot of conferences, but all of the speakers charge usually per keynote or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't really do much keynotes. I usually go, I mean, I do, but it's not like my primary thing where I would get paid. I just go, I speak for free, no problem. And then people come to my masterminds. That's kind of that kind of approach. But per day, it's interesting. Yeah. But yeah, it's like they want you for the next day. So you either pay or if not, then you are with your family. That's more important.
Exactly,
Hmm.
and it's afforded my kids the opportunity to travel. My oldest is only 6, and he's been to 27 states, I think, in 3 countries. My middle, I
Yes.
think, like 18 states, and also 3 countries. And then my daughter, not as many, but she's only 9 months old, so she's got a little bit more time to catch up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I totally see that. Like, I think my youngest 2.5, she already traveled in a plane. I don't know how many times, 12, 15 times already. I'm
Yeah,
like,
right,
I've been the first time on a plane when I was like 14.
right, right.
Yeah, but I've done the same. Like, there was this global speaking summit in Cairns in Australia. So I'm like, yeah, I booked the ticket 1.5 years ago on the conference, and I'm like, okay. And then I told my wife in a message, like, we'll go as a family, all of us. And then 6 months before it, I'm like, oh, no, now it's about, we need to plan it, we need to go. So we hired a motorhome and we spent there 6 weeks in Australia, traveling
Fun.
around and going to conference, and it was really nice. Like, kids enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, so I'm trying as much as I can to take them, but I cannot do it all the time because obviously as family of 5, it adds up with everything. Yes, but trying to take them also with me. We fortunately, because we decided like that, they don't need to go to school. We do homeschooling, so we can actually do whatever we want. So that's kind of a good thing. I don't need to ask anybody for permission.
Right.
But yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's nice to meet someone like yourself who's having 3 young children as a speaker and doing similar things. Like obviously you do bigger businesses, but it's good. I like it. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. It's good to keep the family center.
Yeah. Okay. So I also have seen in here, so the newsletter you mentioned that it grew like 20 times. Is that the one called Collide?
It is. Yep.
Okay. And what is it you mostly speak about there on that newsletter? Like, is it about the future, or what is it about mainly?
It's looking at the current generations in society, from the silent generation all the way to Gen Beta now being born in 2026. And it looks at all those generations, what is going on in society and culture, how that impacts leaders, parents, businesses into the future. So it takes that lens and says, hey, kids these days have this problem, or people retiring this day have this personality trait, or this generation, accumulates wealth but doesn't spend it. So how do you react to those different things?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. And how long are you already doing that?
It'll be 1 year next week. That I've done
1 year
that.
on it?
1 year.
Wow. And you already have 17,000 people
Yes.
subscribed to it?
Yes.
Wow. I'm doing like things for 5 years and I have like 1,000 members. Like, how do you do it?
I write. I try to write really good content as much as I can. Not all of them are home runs. But then I ask intentionally people to share it. I think that's one thing that I've learned. If you want someone to share it or subscribe, you've got to ask for it. And so I'll ask
You need to
my most loyal subscribers, say, hey, I see your open rates, 95% over the last 2 months. Would you mind sharing this, or who do you think needs to hear it?
Yeah.
And I also narrate it too, so you can, if you don't like reading, which ironically, as much as I write, I don't prefer reading. So I will narrate it, and it's like a little audiobook for each newsletter, and I think that gets a lot of traction as well.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because I also prefer to listen to things than just the reading, because otherwise I just skim so quickly. So I like to listen because for me it's also like seems like efficient. And then if I really want to, I can then go and, for example, to get the book and read it again if it's really good. So I think this is a really interesting concept. That it's good. I also seen that you have on YouTube like 100,000 subscribers. This is really good. Yeah,
I do.
and you do have your own podcast, correct?
I do. It's just reading the newsletters. Is what the podcast is. So the newsletter comes out on Tuesday. Every Thursday, you can get the audio version.
Yeah, so it works like that. Okay, so you don't really get their guest or something like that. So it's more the reading part.
Correct.
Okay, good. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you feel like you would like to share on this podcast today with me before we'll wrap it up?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity, and I love always knowing how small the world is and how we can make an impact where we are, and it matters the people you invest with, because you never know when Larry Long Jr. is going to be in Scotland.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Amazing, perfect. Thank you very much, and then I'm looking forward to meet you.
Awesome, thanks, Vincent.